Three men, one night, my husband's shocking proposition. It was supposed to be a joke, but it nearly destroyed everything. Friday night, a time to unwind, shed the week's stress, and cherish moments with the one you love. My husband and I were lounging at home, sipping wine and chatting about random topics. It felt like one of those cozy evenings where nothing significant was expected to happen. But then he dropped a bombshell that left me reeling. "Have you ever thought about being with other men?" he asked casually. At first, I laughed, thinking he was joking, but he didn't ease up. He specified, specifically, black men. 3 of them. My heart raced. Not in a good way. Who casually brings up such a topic? I stared at him, searching for a sign that he was pulling my leg, but his expression remained dead serious. I felt a wave of discomfort wash over me. Was this some bizarre fantasy he wanted to share? He continued making teasing remarks about how it could spice up our relationship and suggested it could be a one-time thing to add excitement between us. I was lost for words. How was I supposed to react to something so unexpected? Was I supposed to say yes? Was this some kind of test? As days passed, the topic kept resurfacing in our conversations. Initially, I shut it down, changing the subject or making excuses. But he persisted, even mentioning specific friends, black men he deemed cool and charming, insisting that nothing would happen unless I wanted it to. Each mention twisted my stomach, yet I struggled to express how deeply it bothered me. Part of me feared starting a fight, while another part harbored growing resentment. One evening, he took it a step further. "Let's meet these 3 men," he suggested, framing it as a casual hangout with friends. I hesitated, unsure if this was another push towards something I wasn't comfortable with. Desperate to maintain peace and not jeopardize our marriage over what I hoped was just a bad idea, I reluctantly agreed. We met his friends at a local bar. From the start, I felt like I was walking into a trap. His friends were polite and charming, perhaps a bit too friendly, but there was an underlying awkwardness, a silent understanding between them and my husband that made me nauseous. As the night progressed, drinks flowed and conversations grew flirty. I forced myself to laugh, but deep down I was extremely uncomfortable. One man kept giving me lingering looks, tightening a knot in my chest every time our eyes met. Meanwhile, my husband seemed completely relaxed, enjoying the attention I was receiving, treating it like some sort of game. Eventually, we returned home at my husband's insistence, hoping a more relaxed environment would help. But once inside, the atmosphere shifted. The men joked on the couch, but tension simmered beneath the surface. I retreated to the kitchen, trying to keep busy, when one of them entered to help me. Fear and confusion mingled within me as I sensed the danger of the situation. It felt like an invisible weight was keeping me rooted to the spot. The man stood close, his breath against my ear as he whispered, "You look like you want this." That single sentence broke through my paralysis. I backed away, bumping into the counter, desperate to create distance without causing a scene. My heart pounded, a mix of anger and embarrassment surging through me. I needed to stop this, to escape, but my mind was racing, and my body refused to cooperate. I glanced toward the doorway, hoping my husband would sense the situation was escalating, but he didn't. Realization dawned. I was alone. I pushed past him and retreated to the living room, where the other 2 men laughed with my husband, oblivious to the turmoil inside me. My husband smiled, seemingly unaware of the chaos he had orchestrated, or perhaps he didn't care. I sank to the edge of the couch, gripping the cushion until my knuckles turned white. Memories of the kitchen replayed. How close I came to losing control, the fear, the anger. How could my husband push me into something so uncomfortable, so disrespectful of my feelings? The night dragged on, each moment heavier than the last. The men continued drinking and laughing, while my husband maintained his casual demeanor, treating everything as if it were perfectly normal. Finally, the men decided to leave. A wave of relief washed over me, but the underlying tension remained. Turning to my husband, who was still smiling as if the evening had been a success, I knew I couldn't stay silent any longer. "What was that all about?" I asked, my voice trembling. He looked genuinely confused. "What do you mean?" "That whole thing." I gestured toward the door they had just exited. "What were you thinking?" He shrugged, his casual demeanor only fueling my fury. It was just a bit of fun. You didn't have to do anything you didn't want to. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You call that fun? You put me in a situation where one of your friends was all over me, and you just sat there like it was no big deal. His smile faltered, and for the first time that night, I saw a flicker of realization in his eyes. But instead of apologizing, he became defensive. I thought you were into it. You didn't say anything. You didn't stop him. That was the final straw. Do you have any idea how uncomfortable that was for me? How trapped I felt? I thought you were supposed to protect me, not put me in situations like that. Silence filled the room. My husband stood there, seemingly at a loss for words. After what felt like an eternity, he muttered a weak apology, but it didn't feel sincere enough. That night, I slept in the guest room, needing space and time to process what had happened and its implications for our relationship. I loved my husband, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had changed between us. He had pushed me into a situation I wasn't ready for, and I didn't know if I could forgive him. In hindsight, it wasn't just about that night. It was about trust, feeling safe, and being respected in a relationship. My husband had crossed a line, and now I had to decide if I could ever feel comfortable with him again.